Hi guys! So today I am working on another Halloween picture, and I was really excited to start working on this one. I had been thinking about this idea for a couple of weeks before I was able to actually sit down and draw it. So I was able to sketch out a few little thumbnails for different compositions and just the way that I wanted to present this idea and these characters. So by the time I could actually start working on it, I felt really well acquainted with the idea and what direction I wanted to go with that. And that's always really nice when I feel like I've kind of solved some of the issues before I even start. And that way, when I start working on it, it's more enjoyable to be able to feel like I have more control over it and that I've figured out some of the aspects of it. And I was really excited about starting this one, about the different things that I could draw on it. So yeah, I did have a lot of fun drawing this one. So for this one, I decided to go ahead and show you the entirety of my sketching phase. And at the beginning, you can kind of see how I had a lot of different characters that I was trying out, or different iterations of the same character, and just working through and changing a lot of things so that they end up looking very different from the final piece. And that's pretty typical for a lot of my more complicated pieces, or ones specifically that have multiple characters in them, is that I have to try several times before I get it just right, especially when you're working with multiple characters. You want them to look different enough but also have the same similarities that tie them together and make them look like one whole cohesive group, instead of ones that just don't look like they mesh, or that they belong in the same type of world. So for this one, and for most of my sketches, I usually have two layers of sketches. So I'll start off with one that's really rough, and it's just to get the form and the shape of the characters and the different parts of the actual image. And that way I can manipulate them, I can move them around, I can change their composition, and then when I'm happy with that, I move on to a second layer where the opacity is turned up a little bit more so I can see it a little bit more. And that's where I really start getting the details and get everything accurate, but I have that structure beneath it. So for this one in particular, oftentimes I'll go ahead and I can get something close in the sketch off of memory, but I don't know exactly what it looks like. So for this one, I had this skull, and the first sketch, the first pass, was very rough and not at all looking like an actual skull. So when I was ready to start doing the actual second sketching phase, I went and looked up a lot of different reference for skulls, and that way I could get it really accurate and make sure that it looked the way I wanted it to. But I didn't have to spend a long time in the really rough stage. I was able to move on and start working on other things. And that's usually what I do with hands, is that I can get it relatively close in the first sketch pass, and then I'll look up reference, and then I'll be able to get it completely accurate. And that's really kind of a helpful process for me, is to be able to work off of something that's already there, instead of trying to put down something that's perfect on the first pass. So while I was working on this, I feel like it kind of unlocked a different style and way of doing line art than what I usually do. And I think it's because I was doing these monsters, so I was allowing myself to put in these details that made them look rough or worn and just kind of more gritty than like this normal, nice, clean looking human that I didn't normally do. So I was able to add these like grungy details and more fine lines than I normally do in my line art, and I really liked that. I liked being able to add that kind of texture in during the line art phase. So I think that this is something that I'll really try to bring into my normal illustrations, instead of just having these really clean looking people. I guess I can add more texture and more life into the line art in a way that I kind of was doing in this one. So I really like that. I like that aspect, and I like that I could experiment more with a very slightly different subject matter than I usually do. So I think that that really helped me to see what things I've kind of got stuck, and other things that could be adapted and changed a little bit and be better, because I'm not looking at it through the same lens that I normally do when I'm just drawing like pretty people. So I think that that was really helpful for me to be able to see a different way of going about drawing this. And I loved when I could finally add the environment elements, and it was actually very simple. There wasn't a lot that I was putting there, but it was just enough to show and imply that they were in this neighborhood, that they were on this porch. And I love details like that where it's really pretty simple and it's not really a lot there, but it tells the viewer that there is. It tells a story with not really that many lines, and it's just really fun. It's kind of magical to add that, and then suddenly it gives them a place, and it tells a lot more of a story with them within an environment as opposed to just some characters. So I really like that. I love being able to add things like that, and I love having these environments, which I'm trying to bring in more. I'm trying to give every piece an environment, and some are more successful than others, and I feel like this one was pretty good, especially considering the amount of actual drawing that it took to place them into this kind of a world. So that is pretty much it for the line art for this one. I am really excited to be able to move on and work on coloring this one. And I have a few ideas of kind of this like special effects things that I can add to it and different elements that I think will make it really fun to actually start painting this and finishing it up. So stay tuned for that. That'll be out later this week. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you can catch all my future art videos. And I will see you at my next one. Bye.